What's up, guys? Friday Night Spotlight. We are here on Northeast Kayak Fishing TV. I'm your host, Jay Lacasse. Tonight we have our special guest, Rhode Island Kayak Bass and Angler of the Year, Chris Catucci. We're going to bring him on right here. Everybody let us know if you can hear everything all right. There he is, Chris Catucci. How we doing?
For your first Friday night spotlight, and looking forward to this. Should be fun.
Yeah, we should have a good time. If everybody could let us know they can see and hear everything, that'd be great. All right, we'll get right into it. Chris, what made you start with kayak fishing?
Well, I originally had a boat that I'd won, and it was getting a little bit expensive. And where I live in Warwick, it's very close to a lot of good saltwater fishing that I really couldn't access because I would not put my freshwater aluminum boat in salt water just for corrosion reasons. I mean, that boat was not meant for salt water. So I figured I'd buy a kayak just to get out there and, do a little bit of fluke fishing. So I started with like just a 10-foot Pelican from Dick's, nothing crazy. It was like $250. Just thought I'd give it a shot.
Right. And did you always think that you'd get into kayak tournaments or?
No, I mean, well, this is all a new kind of sport that's kind of evolving and obviously growing each year. And
Right.
obviously, I used to do fishing tournaments and kind of stopped doing them. But upon finding out that this was happening, like a freshwater kayak fishing scene in Rhode Island, I figured I'd jump on it, give it a shot, see how I liked it. And my first tournament I ended up winning. So I think from there, though, I was like, I could really do something with this. And, I've been learning ever since. So getting better and better each tournament.
Right. You've won quite a few of them around here. So I'd say you're definitely getting better and better. But you're new guy to the winning scene and being at the top of your game. A lot of people might not know this, but Chris is the Junior Bassmaster World Champion in 2010. Chris won that tournament. I'll let you walk us through it, man. I mean, it was 1 ounce. You won by an ounce. I mean, walking up to those scales, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a crazy journey to get there. It wasn't just I got sent down there. I won a tournament in Rhode Island that made me the best junior angler in my age category. And there was 2 different age categories. So after I won that tournament, I shipped off to Candlewood Lake about a month and a half after that in Connecticut and fished the divisional against all the other kids that won their state tournaments from New England. There was also representatives from Canada and New York and New Jersey. And I was able to win that tournament, which sent me to Louisiana to face the divisional winners from around the world. And yeah, it was quite the journey getting there, obviously, but the weigh-in, I knew I had 2 good fish. I also knew another kid in my age group had 2 good fish, and I knew it was going to be close. I thought I only had 5.5 pounds, and he weighed in 5 pounds 11 ounces. And I was ushered to the back because I was also with another kid in an older age group who actually ended up winning his division, but he did have less weight than me in the tournament, so technically I did have more weight than him, but that doesn't matter. I basically, though, I thought I was going to lose, so I was like, I'm just going to weigh in my fish with dignity, and I got lucky, and an ounce made a huge difference.
Well, here it is right here. Let me pull up the slide. There he is at the weigh-in. I mean, man, that must have been amazing. Standing on
Yeah,
that stage, holding that fish up. I mean, that's what we've all dreamed of all these years growing up. I mean, you experienced it when you were, what, 14 years old?
Yeah, I just turned 15, but when I qualified, I was 14. So yeah, I was that old, and that fish is really a funny fish because um, I have the lure I caught the fish on right here. Actually, it's a Rebel Popar, nothing crazy, just your standard top water. But we found an area in practice with some bait, and we figured that was our best shot at catching fish. It was a really tough, lake, Cross Lake in Louisiana. It's like 8,000 acres, not regarded for its fishing. It also had a slot limit, so any fish between 14 and 17 inches had to go back.
Wow.
So you had to catch one between 12 and 14 or over 17 to count. So that was just like a curveball I don't think anyone was ready for, because that just happens. You're going to
Right,
catch
right.
fish in that slot. That fish though was over 17, and it blew up on the popper, missed it, and it was after a cold front, so they were very like skittish. They were not aggressively feeding. They were more feeding like a trout would, just kind of scooping at the surface. I feel like we've all seen that
Right.
before.
Yep. Especially
And
after a cold front.
yep. So basically, I paused it. I panicked. I was like, "This is a huge tournament. Like, I just missed a nice fish." And I gave it like about a minute. I was popping it, letting it sit, fishing it real slow. And I was like, all right, I was pissed. I started cranking the lure in, real fast to make another cast. And that fish came up, reaction strike, ate it. And it was just crazy. Like, I just was like, get the net. Like, it happened so fast. Like, the boat captain luckily grabbed the net and netted the fish. The popper came out of its mouth instantly, but that was the winning fish. And it's just a game of ounces. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Now it's a game of inches, but
Right,
I
right. Yep.
feel like
But I
inches.
mean, an ounce, man. He had 5'11", and you came up to the scale with 5'12". I mean, I read an article. When in the interview you were saying that you didn't think you even had a chance at winning, um, and then to get up there and have you top him by 1 ounce, that's awesome. There's a
Yeah, no, it
there's
was.
another photo here with the trophy. Chris actually has the trophy there. Why don't you show
Yeah,
everybody?
I'll show it off a little bit because it's been kind of hidden in darkness for a while. So we'll give it a little bit of credit, but that's it. It's pretty nice. Weighs like 10 pounds, glass.
That's
They
awesome.
didn't cheap out on it, so I'll have this for the rest of my life.
Now, what made you get into the junior bassmasters? A family member or?
It was one of my friends. So I originally was like playing baseball, and I got an injury to my rotator cuff, and basically it resulted in me like getting cut from the team when I tried out because I was injured. And there's all these other kids willing to take your spot, and it's like freshman year, they don't trust you that you're good if you got like an injury, you
Right.
know. But that kind of like spit me off, where I was like, screw baseball, like this isn't gonna work. Like, my buddy had told me, Pat Crabtree, that he had done these junior bass fishing tournaments, and that piqued my interest. So I signed up that following year, and my first year doing it, that's what happened. So it was just like I went from 0 to 100. Obviously, I'd been fishing, before up to that point, but not competitively. So it was kind of like, I don't know, baptism by fire. Just went in and I was able to do it all. I don't know.
Now there was another angler before you from Warwick also that had won the world championships, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you fish against him or with him? Or?
No, he was like through the system, and he wasn't even doing the tournaments anymore. But there was a competition. There was like a good group of like 12 kids that were pretty good at fishing that were competing in that age group. So it was not like easy,
Right. It
obviously.
wasn't a hand me. It was you had to earn
Yeah,
it.
still had to catch fish.
Now, through my research, I also came across you were on a TBF high school team. I've
Yes.
never heard you talk about that, so let's hear what that was about.
Yeah, so that was with my buddy Pat, who originally got me into the, junior bass fishing scene. And me and him ended up teaming up, and we were like, we can do this high school fishing. Like, it's a thing, and like, there's not many people doing it. So it was a tri-state tournament. It was Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and it was on Webster Lake in Massachusetts.
That's a great
And
lake.
yep, it's a good lake. We caught some fish early in the morning, drop shotting like deep water, and then we ended up flipping some pads and some trees. And Pat got like a 4 pounder. It was like 4.5. I got like a 4 pounder and like a 3 pounder. So just like we had a solid bag. I think we weighed in like 15 pounds for like 5 fish. We ended up like coming, I think, in second overall, but we won for our state. So then we shipped down to Virginia, fished Philpott Lake, and we ended up coming in second place in that tournament. The
Right.
home team won. It was a really tough fishery. I mean, 80 feet of water, like just nothing like anything we're used to, like Carolina rigging, like schooling fish. It was like a super tough lake, but we were able to catch like a small limit. But these guys, they got on a schooling bite. They got 1 4 pounder on a top water, and that just like sealed the deal for
Yeah,
them.
I saw the results for that. I mean, even them being on their home lake, I think they only had like 8 pounds, 12 ounces, or
Yeah,
something like that, and you guys
tough.
had a little over half of what they had.
Yeah,
I think you guys
definitely.
came in right around 5 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, to go down there and come in second against the home guys, I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was a good experience too, just getting down there, new type of fishing, 80 feet of water. It was just like, no, it was definitely, we were out of our comfort zone, but we tried our best.
Right. Hey, you came in second. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
No.
Um,
We, right.
why wouldn't you continue with the bass boat thing and
So I don't know. I kind of had like a sour taste left in my mouth because I ended up doing like the co-angler thing where I was fishing in like a club. It was Kent County Bass Anglers. They're based out of like Connecticut,
right?
and like there's some good fishermen. Like these were like the best guys like I knew, and it was even tough to get in the club. Like it was like almost competitive because people wanted to be in it. And I did it, and it was like nice. I had the boat too, so I was able to travel, fish around, face good competition. Um, but it just got expensive. I mean, I was dropping. Gas was expensive at the time. I had an F-250. Like I was putting $100 in my tank to fill it, and I was traveling like all the way to Connecticut and back, like trailing my boat. It just, I was only in high school. Like it was getting expensive, so when college hit, that's when I'd end up selling the boat, and that's how I got the kayak. But basically, it got expensive. It's the I don't know. It's not cheap owning a boat. You got insurance, registration, trailer maintenance, batteries. There's just so many things, and that's kind of why I was like, I don't know. Kayaks are so much less money to maintain.
That's pretty much what I did. I had a bass boat and I fished a couple of local weeknight trails and stuff. And those are still around, but I had sold my boat and I actually stopped fishing because I couldn't stand fishing from the bank. And
Yeah.
I had a canoe that my grandfather gave me, but it was old and super heavy. So taking it out by myself, and then I actually saw Chad Hoover on TV fishing out of a kayak and standing up and stuff. I was like, if that fat ass can do it, I can definitely get up in a kayak. So
Uh,
I I got a kayak, and I mean I call him a fat ass because I am a fat ass too. I mean, and I got a kayak, and I've stuck with it the same. So we kind of got the same story there. The boat was too expensive.
yep.
Let's talk the angler of the year. I mean, at the beginning of the season, did you think that that was your goal, or was that something you were
Yeah.
reaching
I mean,
for?
the last season I kind of had a shot at it, but I kind of screwed myself over because I ended up stabbing myself with a oyster shucking knife, and I had 5 stitches in my hand. And the tournament was like going to be really rainy, and I was like, yeah, no, that's like asking for an infection,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
So I couldn't fish the last one, and I didn't, I was still like, I don't know, I was doing stupid stuff out there. Like I didn't even have a net with me. I wasn't even bringing a net to the tournaments. I was just like, I don't need a net, which that's just dumb. But I got like a lot more in the off season. I was like, I'm gonna really try and win some more this year. Like I'm gonna specifically devote time, prepare like for tournaments, and I don't know, just fish the way I like to fish. And it just kind of like I had like I had a couple like tough tournaments in the beginning where I didn't do as well, and I really like messed up, and it was my own mistake. I kind of blew it, and that kind of like lit a fire under me where I was like, all right, no regrets now. Like I can't let up at all, you know, and it's momentum.
Yeah, you got on some momentum. I mean, it wasn't just in RIKB. You brought that momentum into OSKB. I mean, you went into MAKB in Mass, and I know you only fished what, one or two tournaments with them, but
Yeah,
you finished well in those.
yeah,
You were on that momentum, man. It was definitely building. And you talk
yeah.
about that momentum now. Like, what does that do for your head, like your mental wise? I mean, getting that momentum, how does that keep you going? And
Well, it definitely is like a confidence booster. You feel like more like, all right, you need to catch fish like every time you're out there. That's like kind of my mentality, and not care about what anyone else is doing. Just I'm out there, I'm trying to catch my fish. I can't control what other people are doing. You know, I'm just out there for myself, and it's definitely like I don't know. I had also like some lost fish, like some big mistakes early in the season that were just like that beach pond tournament that we did where it rained, like the first event I did for Ocean State, like,
yeah,
that was a really crappy day. And I remember in the beginning of that day, Nate Chagnon, he saw my net and was like, that handle looks pretty short. And I was like, yeah, but it's all right if you're sitting down. But I didn't think about like, oh, when you hook a big fish, you stand up. You're not sitting down. And sure enough, I lost like a monster, like a 5-6 pounder that tournament. It was because my net was short, and I was like, I'm an idiot. Like, what am I doing? Like, it just like you got to learn from. Anyone can teach you anything, and I just try and keep an open mind out there, and I feel like I've gotten better as I've done more of these tournaments.
right. I mean, you only can learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you're not going to get any better. So, yeah, you definitely got to pay attention to what you do right and what you do wrong. Um, so obviously, your goal was definitely to get Angler of the Year. For I'm sure you wanted Angler of the Year in both groups, but you sealed the deal in RIKB. What do you think was your best performance with RIKB?
I think Wardens was probably my best one because I just lapped the field. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah, that's
I
what I
was
was
just,
thinking too.
I don't know, like people weren't catching them, and like I, I always go out with the idea that at any hour they could start biting better than the hour before that, and like sometimes you got to grind. Wardens, I fished there for a long time, and it's always you got to grind. It's never easy there. It's
Right.
never been, but there's a lot of habitat. There's a lot of spots,
That
and there's
place
some big
that place
fish.
can make or break you. You can either go there and crush it, or you can get skunked.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, that tournament, I started off. There's a rocky shoreline. I was like, I'm gonna go there, fish my jig. I ended up catching like one 14 incher, one 10 incher. I was like, whatever. But I ended up hitting an area and I saw bait. And whenever I see bait, I'm just like, why would I want to move? Like, if I'm seeing all this activity, I'm not moving. I'm going to camp out, or I'm going to, like, really fish here until I catch them. And it was just one of those things. I threw the frog. I was like, I'm going to commit myself to it. And it got better as the tournament went on. I mean, at the last hour of the tournament, I had these fish so dialed in. Like, it was just like I knew where they were going to be. I knew the speed. I knew the bait. I felt like I knew exactly what they wanted. And like, when you have a fish hit a frog 4 times before it hooks itself, it's just like, you're like, all right, I know I'm doing this right. And I don't know. I caught them well that day, and I could have kept catching them. It was a great day for me, but obviously a lot of guys struggled, and Wardens can be tough, but you got to just, I don't know, that type of lake, you just got to really try and figure them out the whole time you're out there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you were definitely crushing them there. Um,
I mean, you got lunker that tournament though.
yeah, I
So, I mean,
did.
I
I
saw
just
that.
couldn't. Once that wind picked up, it beat me into that bank that I was fishing, and I just couldn't get on that pattern that I usually fish there. I usually fish that edge of those reeds, um, and once that wind picked up, it beat me down, and I had no other pattern to go with. I was
Another thing, I was protected from the wind in the spot,
right. That
which
spot you went is way in
I
the
kind of
back.
got lucky with that because obviously the wind forecast no one can trust. It just is going to go the way it wants to go,
Right,
and that's what happened that day.
right. And um, when I fished the Big Bass Championship there later in the season, I actually went to that spot where you won that tournament, and I ended up
Yep.
coming in third. Um, I just fished that one spot
Yeah.
because
No, and I
the
mean, I
wind wasn't
definitely.
the wind wasn't as bad, but it was doing the same thing. It was starting to push me into those reeds, and I couldn't fish that edge the way that I wanted to. So I was just like, screw it, I'm going to the back. I
Yep.
fished right around where the creek comes in there, and fished those weeds right there. And I fished that spot all day long. I caught fish all day. I just couldn't get the size that I needed to get first. But
Yeah. I mean, when you got a kayak, you really, especially a place like Warden's, you should try and fish where boats can't be.
exactly.
You know, with the kayak, you can get back in where boats can't go, and
Right.
you're fishing for fish that are less pressured. And in a state like Rhode Island, that's a game changer sometimes.
Now, what is your prep like before a tournament? Say week before, night before, tournament morning.
um, I'd say it kind of varies. Like, I try and size up the lake and understand, all right, where am I going? What tackle am I going to need? And like, there's definitely tournaments where I don't know. I see guys, they bring like a dozen rods. Like, that's just, I could never do that. Like, I try and like size up the lake, figure out, all right, what do I want to do and what do I want to bring for this tournament? And I bring like 3 or 4 rods, and not all my tackle. I bring the tackle I think I'm going to need. I don't know. It's like, I mean, I got my cardboard box. I look all disorganized, but there's definitely a method to the madness. It's like every time I'm bringing different stuff out there, I'm not going to bring deep dive and crankbaits to Wardens. I'm not going to bring any crankbait to Wardens, actually.
Right. Yep.
you know,
But man, I
but
see you bring the cardboard box. I've seen you go out on the water with no hooks. I mean, no organization whatsoever, and you still end up fishing and catching fish. I don't understand. I mean, there's got to be some type of prep that we're just not seeing here. I mean,
well, I wouldn't. It's not like crazy prep. It's just like, I don't know, just trying to get your stuff like together, what you need, and I don't know. I'm not. There's no magic lure out there for me. It's just like you're gonna catch the fish. If you're gonna, you can catch it doing a bunch of different things, but you gotta use your strengths. I actually read a book this summer, The Psychology of Exceptional Fishing, which it was basically like a lot of self evaluations. Identify your weaknesses, your strengths, where you can improve on, what you should try and practice to improve on, and like admit where you're not strong. I mean, you probably see me fish. I kind of stick with my methods. I don't really throw spinning rods that much unless I have to. I prefer like, heavier tackle, fishing the thicker stuff, heavier baits, bigger baits, um, covering water. I don't like slowing down. Like, I won't throw a Senko unless the bass are spawning. It's not my thing. And like, it's some people's bread and butter, but like, I suck. I don't know. That's not my strength.
right? Yep.
I don't, I'm not going to do and I don't enjoy it as much either.
Right. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to find those strengths, and if you can't catch them with one thing, I mean, you got to move on to the next. So I wish I could figure out what my strengths and weaknesses were. I definitely struggle out there. I struggle with myself, really. Once I get a grip on that, I should be all right. Um, what's the name of that book again? Let's tell everybody what that is. Maybe it'd help
Well, I
everybody
mean,
out.
it's the psychology of exceptional fishing. I mean, it's by a guy who's got his PhD. You know, it's not really a book. It's more of just like a guide to like, I don't know, like planning your future and kind of like, I don't know, all these different things. Like there's a lot of like stuff in it. I think it's valuable. I think some of it has helped me, but I'm not going to give it all the credit, obviously. Like, but that's like what I think is important with fishing. Like the mental side is so big. Like people don't really like to talk about it, but everyone's out there, and sometimes your brain's like scrambled eggs. You know, you're thinking all these different things, and it's tough. You know, because sometimes it's just a matter of being patient and
Right.
just waiting for the
Now,
fish.
when you're on the water and you're fishing the kayak tournament, do you look at Tourney X? Do you see who's catching them? And
Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't like sandbagging. I think's dumb. I don't know. I don't do that. Like, I just try and upload them because, like, I, I don't know. Your phone could die at any moment.
right,
You could drop it in. You know, something could happen. Just I just figure upload it. You know,
right,
get it in there. But yeah, I mean, I'll look if I'm like struggling, but if I'm like up in the lead and I'm like, or if I'm catching fish, I'm not really looking. I'm fishing. You know, I'm not trying to. There's not a mind game. I don't really play mind games.
right. So if you look at it and you see you're in last place, that's not going to bother you at all, or
Oh, I mean, it's definitely gonna try and make me fish harder, but it's just some days it's not your day, and you just gotta accept that. You know,
right,
there's gonna be those days where it's just you're gonna lose fish. You know, things are gonna go wrong. You know, stuff's not gonna work your way, but you just gotta push through and you know on to the next one. I also fished a lot of tournaments. I don't know, like people probably didn't fish as many as I did. I did like over 20.
right.
I mean,
I,
so I
I'll
mean, I
actually
really,
bring that up right now on Tourney X. You'll see it.
I did a couple of the monthlies, which I'm not like a huge fan of, but I definitely try to do a lot of
Now
tournaments.
we're looking here. You got 27 tournaments. I don't think those were all this year.
No, it was probably like 5 or 6 last year.
Right. You have 12 first place finishes out of 27 tournaments, 3 second place finishes, 2 third place finishes, and 24 top 10 finishes. So 24 out of 27 you finish in the top 10. I mean that's unbelievable.
I mean, you know, there's not like it's not like there's a huge amount of guys doing the tournaments though around here. So it's like if you're going down south where the tournaments are bigger, you know, it'd be probably a little more like kind of. I feel like the wins though. That's a win's a win.
Yeah,
You
you got
know.
12 wins, 12 first place finishes.
Yeah.
That's almost half of your tournaments.
I mean, I hit a roll this year, dude. I won like 4 in a row. I'm pretty sure it was just like it just kept things just kept happening for me. I don't know. You know, I'm pretty good when the fishing's tough. I can catch them.
Right. If anybody's going to catch them, it's going to be you.
I try.
So
Not
what
always.
what do you think was your worst performance of the season?
Oh, oof, oof. I can't. Probably have to be Smith and Sales, the one that you guys
The
would.
Ocean State? Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
I did.
I think I'd have to agree with you there. I think you might have finished outside the top 10 in that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that was just because of lost fish too, man. It just wasn't my day. Like you ever know when you get a bite, like, and you're on the kayak with like a Texas rig and like the fish is under you,
right.
you're doomed. When you set the hook vertically from a kayak, you're doomed. It's just the worst angle. You always are gonna lose the fish. That happened to me a couple times, and I also like had one jump off that was like 3 pounds, like towards the end of the day when I was throwing a 10-inch worm, and that was just like a shot. I was just like, oh, it's just not my day.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you came in 11th in that tournament with only 3 fish.
you
So
know,
that was definitely a struggle. I
definitely.
actually lost 3 fish that day. I probably could have ended up in first instead of second that day. But for whatever reason, the bite was definitely different that day. That's my favorite pond. I go there regularly. It's one of my favorite places to fish. I know it pretty well. And the bite was definitely different. The way they were hitting things, you just couldn't get a good hook set.
I agree. It
Now,
was a tough
what kind
day.
of advice would you give anybody new getting into kayak fishing?
Well, I'd first tell them that $5 of each tournament goes towards 20x, so they understand that.
Right.
Because I feel like that's kind of a constriction of the sport growing, and that is kind of like a lot of money. Hopefully, it lowers over the years because I don't know how sustainable that is, like attracting new people. But hopefully, more people do try this. Obviously, kayak fishing is a growing sport. And I think it's just the format is a little unfamiliar for people. That's how it was for me anyway. The transition to like doing these pictures and all the rules. I mean, it's nice that they changed the rules, made them a little less stringent with the life jackets and stuff. But obviously, the issue is obviously I think the rules. It's a big curve because like the rules are pretty strict if you ask me. I mean,
Yeah, they definitely
some
are.
crazy, crazy regulations, which I mean, I guess that's how you have to do it. But
You
I
got
think,
because there's so many ways guys could cheat in kayak
yeah,
fishing. There's a lot more ways than in bass boat fishing
yeah, no,
to cheat.
100%.
So I think that's why there's so many rules, and they're obviously working because they're catching guys who are
Yeah,
cheating.
no, for sure. And
We've
I mean,
caught
I,
we've
I
caught
hope,
what two in our region, and there's been many across the country that have been caught.
yeah, I hope that doesn't, continue because that's really what also hurts the sport a lot. Um, you know, it's got to be a fair playing field, or else, people are going to be very, not apt to do it. So I think it's very important that we maintain the integrity of the sport in terms of like enforcing the rules and making sure, everyone's doing stuff correctly. But for new guys, that's kind of off putting, I think,
Definitely.
initially.
Yeah, I could see where that would. It even turns me off sometimes, and I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years now, and sometimes I think, why am I doing this? I mean, in the middle of the season, Joe Brancato, you can actually ask him. I sent him a message talking about how I wasn't going to do kayak fishing next season. I was going back to bass boats. I had got sick of seeing all these guys cheating. I mean, getting caught all over the country
Yeah,
cheating.
it was
Uh,
bad.
and then that Renato one that kind of sent me overboard. I mean, the guy's cutting the tail with scissors. It just turned me off. I
Yeah,
almost quit. Joe kind of talked me back into it. Um,
yeah,
I
but
can see how that can turn guys away. But at least we know they are getting caught. I'm sure some guys are getting away with it still, but they're gonna get caught.
yeah, I think it's like I don't know. It's a good thing though, the catch photo release format because it puts a lot less stress on the fish. Obviously, when guys start, cutting the tails off and stuff, that's a whole different story. But the fact that they go back where they're caught, I think that is a lot more appealing to like the people who live on the lake. Cause like I don't know, there's been times where I catch like a fish under some guy's dock, and it's like, dude, I just caught your pet, and they like to see it go back, and I think everyone likes to see it go back, and I think that's one of the things that we could really use to grow the sport, because of how sustainable that is.
Yeah,
Because
right.
putting the fish in the live well is not good.
Oh,
Um,
definitely not.
I went to like school. I studied aquaculture and fisheries at URI. I graduated a couple years ago, and I took a class, fish physiology, and like basically when a fish gets stressed out, its cortisol levels. It's like a hormone, and the fish they'll spike. And being in a live well is a perfect example. Like that's stresses the fish out like so much. And when that happens, they're a lot more subject to disease, and they could be getting infections. So it's really not good for the fish, to sit in the live well for 8 hours, and I think that's kind of like I don't know, it's an aging technique that's kind of getting phased out. The catch photo release or the catch weigh release, that is really the format that is the most sustainable, if you ask me. And obviously, that's what makes it tough to regulate because you got people that are cheating.
Right. And it's not like a boat. We don't have boat officials on a kayak, um,
Yeah,
so there's nobody to watch us. But I like the catch photo release and the catch weigh release. I like the MLF format now. How they're switching to how they brought in that catch weigh release. And I even saw the other day on TV. I was watching a fishing show, and there was actually a Bassmaster tournament where they were doing the same thing. I think it was just a special tournament. It was on a lake in Texas. I don't know if maybe that was the regulations or whatever on that lake. Um, but they were actually doing the same thing. They had a boat official. They would weigh it and then they would put it back. And I guess they just used the top 5 weights that they had caught throughout the day. So
yeah,
I definitely think that kayak fishing has brought to the attention of people that we need to do better to sustain these waters, especially the waters that are getting crushed um, by hundreds of tournaments a season. I mean, look at Toledo Bend, uh, Sam Rayburn, and places like that. I mean, those places hold hundreds to thousands of tournaments a season. Those fish are definitely getting hammered. So I
yeah,
definitely think you're right there with the catch photo release, and catch weigh release is way better on the fish.
yeah. It definitely is nice to put them back too, because like especially if they're spawning or I don't know, it's really just not good to like move the fish around. I feel like you're just disturbing them more than you need to.
All right, so your top 5 anglers of all time. Let's hear them.
Sheesh. All right. Gotta give props to Mike Iaconelli just because like I met that guy and he was like wicked cool. And he obviously has like a sick style, kind of do everything. Gerald Swindle, he's up there just because it's another like kind of trash fisherman. He'll do anything to catch a fish. I like Chris Zaldane and Brandon Palaniuk. Those are probably another guys up there. And for number 5, I'm gonna have to go with the Mark Davis, the crankbait dude. He
Wow.
he was Bass University. He gave a class and he knows a lot about crankbait fishing. He's like the master, and it was sick just listening to hear what he said. But Palaniuk, a funny story about him. He was actually down in Louisiana when I won that tournament.
Right, I read the article.
And
Yep.
yeah, so that was kind of like the birth of him. I remember I met him and he was like, "Dude, congrats." I was like, "Dude, congrats." Like it was sick.
Yeah,
So like he
that
kind
guy
of
was
like
living out of his truck.
yeah, he was
He's
a
from
monster.
Idaho, man. This guy's winning Bassmasters, and he's from
I
Idaho.
know. He's a great
They even
fisherman.
have lakes in Idaho.
Dude, they got pretty good fishing, evidently, honestly, because it's like, who's fishing in Idaho? No one.
Nobody.
No pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
So, what's your plans for 2020?
Oh, well, obviously shipping down to Alabama, fishing the national championship. We'll see how that goes. Obviously there's gonna be like 800 guys. Like that's a crazy tournament to try and win, but just gonna go down there, give it my all, and see what happens. It'll be fun, definitely. And I'm definitely gonna do the regional events for KBF. Maybe do like one of the Hobie BOS. I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but I got a plan to fish a lot of tournaments. I definitely want to travel too, do some more like out of state tournaments. See
Definitely.
how that goes.
That's the best part of this sport. I love doing that, traveling to other places. I mean, sometimes when you don't do well, it kind of sucks, but there's still that experience that you got.
Yeah,
You fished a different body of water. You met all kinds of other fishermen, and that's the best part of it to me.
definitely.
If you can
And I
finish
mean,
good, I mean that makes it even better. But
yeah, I mean the two Massachusetts events I did, I really liked because like those were lakes I hadn't fished, and Long Pond was like a cool fishery. Like I lost a nice fish. I didn't lose it actually. basically I casted my frog into a tree and it came out and landed and it just got bombed. Like a big fish must have thought it was like a bird that fell out of the tree. And there was so much slack in my line when I set the hook, I like almost fell out of my kayak. I just a complete dry hook set, like the worst. And the fish obviously came off. Like I just didn't hook it, but it was a good lake. I came in like eighth in that tournament, and obviously those guys are pretty good. You know, they got some good sticks up there, so it's like fun to fish different places against different people. So yeah, I'll be hopefully do some more of those. You know, the massive boag one I did, I came in second. That was a sick lake. It was fun to fish. I caught a bunch that day.
Yeah, Mass definitely has a lot better fisheries than we have here in Rhode Island.
Yeah,
More fisheries that are good, where we only have a couple that are good. You know,
it gets boring fishing the same old
it
lakes. I
does.
mean, we're just kind of like that's the big knock with Rhode Island, and like that's why I think it's crazy that guys have bass boats because like you get on plane and you're already there. It's like it's not like I mean I the guys who travel with them like obviously I respect that because like you're going to Maine, New Hampshire, Canada, Vermont, like you're actually using the boat, but you got like a friggin' bass boat. What are you doing with it, man? It's like there's no good boat ramps. There's not many good lakes. I don't know.
What do you think about the new Bassmaster kayak series?
Just it's not really located around here, so that kind of sucks.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Is there supposed to be a federation or something coming up
The
with the kayak or
they
no?
they're they'll be the nation, the Bass Nation, which is the local level, um, where they're going to allow a championship in each state, and then guys can qualify for the classic that way, and it'll be
Yeah,
fished in conjunction with the Bassmaster Classic. So whoever wins that uh, will actually be going on the stage during the classic, which would be pretty cool. I mean, uh,
yeah.
kayak
I
guys standing on the stage with guys that we dreamed of fishing with when we were kids.
yeah, and it's good too because now MLF might look into kayak fishing, and it just obviously they kind of took some away from bass. So like there's a void to be filled, though. I think there's a lot of kayak anglers. More and more people are going to be doing this over the years. It's just more sustainable, more affordable.
So
Um,
you don't think that more clubs will hurt the the community? Uh, you know what I mean? Like having more clubs will hurt the community, or you think that'll better the community?
um, it'll better it if it grows appropriately. You just got to kind of have the right growth for the amount of like clubs you have, I guess.
Right. I mean, if you look at the kayak bassin Facebook group, I think there's something like 35,000 members or something like that in
Yeah,
that group. So I mean, it's definitely growing into a huge sport. So the, the clubs, I mean, like in Rhode Island, we have to have multiple clubs because we only can have maximum 20 boats per body of water. I mean, if only 20 guys can fish, what do the rest of the guys do? So, I mean,
yeah,
in our state, it works because the more clubs, the more tournaments we can have, the more guys can get involved. Um, so I
yeah.
think
No,
it'll help in that sense. I just don't know about like the growth in the pro level. I mean, if Bassmaster's doing it and KBF's doing it and MLF tries to do it, I just don't know if that's going to be able to grow. Do you have that many pros that can
yeah.
sustain that?
No, definitely. But I mean, for now, I think the sport has to grow a little bit more, but it's happening pretty fast. And I don't know. I feel like it'd be nice if we kind of like if more people got introduced to it because I feel like once you're introduced, that's all it takes. You're like, all right, this is actually pretty cool.
Right. The first time I got in a kayak and hooked up with a bass, I was hooked. I've been doing it since. I
Yeah,
I can't imagine fishing any other way.
yeah. I mean, I originally actually bought the Hobie. It wasn't for like fresh water. I bought it for salt water. I mean,
Right.
I've caught like a lot of stripers. You know, I've done like I kind of like had like a saltwater spell where I didn't really do much freshwater fishing. I kind of focused on saltwater. There was also a lot of stripers around in the bay that year, but I mean, I was crushing them, and like those fish are so fun to catch. You know, they were big. Obviously, the population's taken a hit since then. This was like a couple of years ago. Used to be a lot better than what it is now. But well, any year could change. But you know, the striped bass, the big fish, are definitely not as plentiful as they used to be.
Right. I remember
So
seeing a few years ago. I mean, guys pulling out a 60-incher was the norm, and now
yeah,
I don't think I saw a 60-incher on Facebook this year.
yeah, it was a tough year, but I mean, guys still caught them. But I don't know. I get more. I think it's more fun fishing for largemouth. I also think it's funny how there's a lot of guys that saltwater fish who just refuse to freshwater fish. I don't know.
I think the
Maybe
same thing. I live in Rhode Island and I don't saltwater fish.
a lot of guys say it's like, oh, I suck at freshwater fishing, but it's like very similar to saltwater. I don't
Right.
know. I feel like with saltwater, it's a little more like heavier tackle, and your knots will get tested a little bit more, and it's fun. But I think it's also easier to catch fish, and because like with largemouth, they could be doing a bunch of different things, but with stripers, it's like, all right, they're either here and they're eating, or they're here, they're not eating, or they're not here. You
Right.
know, it's more simple, but
Yeah,
I think it's more challenging freshwater.
yeah, definitely. I think that definitely separates the men from the boys. Anybody can go out on a charter boat and smash some stripers or blues or whatever, but not everybody's getting on a lake and finding the largemouth and consistently catching them on a good pattern.
Yeah. And I mean, with saltwater fishing too, like, I don't know, it's just frustrating. Like, I've been out there fishing and boats just like, if they see you hooked up, they're next to you. And that's what pisses me off. Cause it's like, I'm in a kayak. Like, what are you doing? Like, most of the guys are okay, but there's just some idiots out there. And it's like, that's what really just kind of drove me out of there too. Cause it's like, oh, like, it's everyone's looking for the boats. It's like Captain Seagull. Like, who can
Yeah.
find the other boat? You know, it's like that's not my style of fishing. I want to find my own fish, you know, and just leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone.
All right, we got about 10 minutes. Anybody on that wants to ask Chris a question, shoot a comment. Anthony DeLumba says you got his loot.
My loot.
He's got you got his loot.
Oh, his loot. Anthony, I miss you, buddy. I think Anthony had one of the funnier moments when he flipped his kayak.
Dude. Oh man.
Poor Anthony. I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah,
Got
definitely okay. That was
That's another part of the sport, though.
yeah,
You know, it's like anytime, and especially in a lake like Stafford with the water level down and all those rocks, we were just, I mean, I hit so many that day.
yeah.
I could flip my kayak.
I hit a few rocks. I didn't lock my pedal drive down because on the PDL when you drop it down there's a latch to lock it. I didn't lock it because some of those rocks, if you hit it, it'll just pop the drive up, so you don't break anything. But
Yeah, that
I hit
day,
quite a few.
my drive, I don't know. The people talk crap about the Hobies, but I mean, I smashed rocks like violently that day. Like I was even like my kayak, my drive is screwed, but I bent it back and it's okay. I mean, until we'll see when it's the mat one of the mass snaps, which has happened to me before, but
Right.
it's been a while.
Isn't that a common issue with those?
Yeah, but I kind of learned with the Hobie, like when I first got it, I thought it was indestructible. Like I was in 3 foot waves, like cranking as hard as I could, and I just blew one of the sprockets up. And from that moment on, I was like, all right, like these are kind of like you kind of have to drive it like a car. Like you can't like just go hard with it. You kind of easily speed up, and you could, I don't know. There's a certain way of using them where they won't break as often.
So it's like a Jackson drive. Steve Scott, if you're
Hey,
watching,
hey, listen, it
that kid
works.
broke more drives this season than I've ever seen anybody break. He must have the highest torque in his legs. Every time he'd get into it, snap.
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me this
Knock
year.
on wood, I haven't had any issues with the Old Town Drive. Um, Hopefully, I don't have any issues, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Every manufacturer has their flaws. I mean,
No, and for me, like, I mean, I'm just comfortable in my kayak. I understand it. I know how it rides in the water. I think it's pretty stable. I like the drive. I like the rudder. I obviously wish I could go backwards sometimes, but
you got to get the 360.
no way, dude. I can't afford that. Hope he's got to sponsor me.
Dude, reach out,
No,
show him that Tourney X page.
nah.
20.
Then I don't even have any sponsors, bro.
I don't understand it. How do you not? I don't understand it. Kid's junior Bassmaster World Champion.
Well, I was sponsored by Eagle Claw for a little bit, so I was sponsored, and it was not bad. Maybe I should contact them. I don't know. It's just like I'd rather get sponsored by a company where I'm actually using their baits.
Right.
You
Definitely.
know, I'm not gonna like. I don't know. I'm not gonna market my. I'm not trying to market something I'm not using.
Exactly. Exactly. Anything that I promote is something that I'm using. I don't promote anything that I don't use.
Yeah. Because when you start being fake, that's when I don't know.
Right.
It's
I
when
mean,
stuff. That's when you're not catching.
somebody you trust in your club starts using the thing that you're saying you're using, and they're not catching fish. They're gonna think you're an asshole. I mean,
Yeah. No, definitely.
but you gotta get on it. Create a resume. If you need
I
help,
mean, I actually started a fishing blog, so Catucci Kayak Bass, and it's a little blog. I'll post like a link to it in the description for anyone that's watching. But basically, where I'm going over some of these tournaments and some strategies I use to catch bass, and I'm just doing it in the winter to have a little bit of fun and build something, and we'll see where it goes. But got a few posts in there, so check it out.
that's that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast. I want to get guys some exposure. The Northeast doesn't really get the exposure that some of the other regions get because they have better fisheries. Um, so that's one of the reasons I started this, to hopefully somebody sees it and they can go look you up, look your name up, and see what you're about. I mean, there's plenty of guys in this region that should definitely have sponsors that can compete with these other guys that are doing this full time. I mean, you, Ken Wood, Derek Brundle. I mean, you guys are guys that could definitely compete anywhere in the country. Uh, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it full time like some of these other guys are.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean,
now, if you were offered to do this full time, would you do that?
it depends. I don't know. Gotta see what the situation is. I don't know. It's still early.
Oh,
I'm
definitely. How old are you? You're
24.
24. I mean, wow. I'm
I've
14.
been doing this for. I mean, I started fishing when I was 10, so it's like I've been in it for a while. And I went to school and I studied like stuff that related to fish. And I literally took care of trout, cichlids. I was like basically in charge of a bunch of fish. I would feed them every day, and I don't know. You just learn. You got to take everything you get and learn something from it, and that's what I've kind of tried to do over the years.
It's obviously working. You figured it out. You're consistent. But that's what I mean. I don't see how you couldn't be doing this for a living. Is that a goal or?
I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what the. It's still like I don't know. The viability of that is just the sport's too small right now. It needs to grow, and it needs a little bit of time, I think. But I
I
don't see.
definitely think it's coming, and there are
Yeah,
guys that are doing it full time.
yeah,
So it's definitely coming,
no, for
and
sure.
my money would be on you. It definitely would. If you're on a lake fishing, my money's on you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like obviously like I'm a good caster, which that can make a difference. You gotta, I don't know, you gotta also be like out there grinding, like never let up, like be relentless as you can, fish as hard as you can. I'm just out there. I love it. It's fun. I try and you see me out there, I kind of zone in, like I do my own thing, but I'm out there, I'm catching them, I'm having fun when it all comes down to it. But
You,
I'm a competitive person, and it fills the void.
I definitely think you cover water better than anybody I've seen cover water. Um, it just looks so smooth the way that you do it.
Boat control is big.
You see a lot of other guys that are covering water, but they're kind of zigzagging and not really sure where they're going. You seem like you just set your path and almost like you got GPS tracking on that thing, and you just set it and go. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of read the water and use my lures based on what I'm seeing. Um, I like throwing a swim bait. I like throwing a frog, top water. My biggest fish of the year, I caught on a Lucky Craft gunfish, which is like a pencil popper. That's saltwater fishing roots where I threw those for hours and hours and hours, and it just gives you the confidence to just, I don't know, they catch fish. You just got to be in the right situation, and whether it's the wind, the sun angle, the temperature, the weather, there's all these factors you got to really be observant of. And I feel like some people just don't really, they just throw that to the wind, but I pay attention to everything. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into fishing that I feel like are underestimated.
yeah, you definitely you figure it out. I got to give you that.
Thank you.
So you got like 2 minutes. I'm just gonna let you run with it. Say whatever you want to say. Shout out anybody you want to shout out. So I'll let you just run with it for 2 minutes, and then we'll get
All
off
right.
here.
All right. Shout out to anyone that's watching. Obviously, this is kind of based on kayak fishing, so it's pretty boring if you're not like interested in it. But I'm kind of a character, so it's slightly entertaining, I guess, right? But I mean, I just want to thank anyone that is in the sport. I mean, I think that everyone should be working together to try and make this as good as it can be, and that's really the. I think that's what needs to happen, because that's how the sport's going to grow. At the best rate it can, and ultimately we'll all benefit from that because the tournaments will be busy, and I'm sure there'll be more sponsorship interest and more money on the line. And obviously the toughest part we face is we don't have that many lakes in Rhode Island, so we got to really make the most of what we have. And I think we're trying to do that more and more each year. But obviously this year I'm going to try and travel and expose myself to like bigger events and see how, all right, I'm a big fish around here, but let's see how I am like when I'm competing against everyone else and in an unfamiliar setting. But I'm prepared for it. I'm just out there trying to have fun. I mean, it's not like I cram for any of this stuff. I just try and enjoy it, have fun, because if you're not having fun out there, you're not going to be like doing well. I don't know. Like, obviously, on a bad day, I get frustrated at myself, and fishing is like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But I have to say that, like, I don't know, you just got to ride the roller coaster, and each day is different, each tournament's different, and just try and stay confident. And I don't know, it's about it.
All right, Chris. I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for participating in our events and the Rhode Island Kayak Bassin events this season. And I wish you the best. I mean, I'll be there with you at all these events, obviously. But I definitely want to wish you the best and hopefully see you in the top, right underneath me.
Hey man, I wish you the best too, man. You're gonna crush him this year. Don't worry.
I was definitely improving at the end of the season, and honestly, I think it's from watching the things that you were doing and the things that we've communicated with. I mean, we went out fished that Warwick Pond that day, and just that couple of hours us fishing together. I mean, just some things that you said, not even the way you fish, just things that you said that made me realize things that I was doing wrong in my own head.
Mhm.
And like you've said, that could be your biggest enemy, is your own brain if you can't figure out what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So I got to thank you for that. Uh,
Appreciate it.
it definitely showed in my Stafford Pond event at the end of the season until the last
Yep.
hour when you decided you were gonna come up and crush my dreams. I thought for
Oh,
sure I had that in the bag. I was catching them all day. I see you in the last hour. You only got one fish, and then all of a sudden, bang! He takes over.
well, it all started. I had a fish follow my lure up, and sometimes it's not even getting a bite. It's just follow, like knowing where a fish is positioned, so that you can be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's what they're doing."
that's. I didn't want you to figure. That's what I did the whole day. Was beating that bank with a finesse jig and a Ned rig, just throwing it up in that bank, and those smallies were up in that shallow water for whatever reason, and the largemouth were right around that same area. First thing in the morning, I caught two largemouth and a smallmouth off the same rock.
Yeah,
And it was, for whatever reason, they were all pushed way up, which I didn't think was going to be the case because the water level dropped way down. So you would think that
yeah.
they would be retreating, but for whatever reason, they were up in that shallow. And I was hoping you didn't figure that out, but you did.
Well, that's how it works.
All right, Chris, thanks for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you on here again throughout the season. This is not going to be your last time winning anything. Uh, so
Thank you.
good luck this season, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy. All right, guys. That was the interview with Angler of the Year Chris Catucci for Rhode Island Kayak Bassin. I hope you guys liked it. Definitely smash that like button, heart button, the laughing face, because we definitely had some laughs tonight. Share it with your friends. I got to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank for Chris coming on. Thanks for Rhode Island Kayak Bassin and the tournament trail that they do. Definitely looking forward to 2020. We'll see you guys on Sunday, 6 o'clock, for our first ever roundtable episode where we just talk fishing. Anything fishing. So, guys, get your questions ready. Comments, anything that you want to talk about that happened in the fishing industry. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.